Good morning, everybody. It's Marty, the JavaScript party. I'm my buddy Rhett back here. Here's your nut girl. She's very excited about the nut today. She's not always super excited about the nut, but today she is. All right, so we're working on viewing. We're trying to basically, we're in a rabbit hole. I thought I had delete done, but delete doesn't work quite right. So I built a whole thing out to be able to see what my memory leaks were basically um, on my data structures that I kind of created to describe ThreeJS, like things that are supposed to happen in these scenes, right? So I have that, right? But the thing is like, okay, so watch this. If I hit this and then I go to data entities, it's gone. But if I add it now, and then I go back, and then I go to here, and I look at this, and then I hit back, it's there. And why is that? Well, it's because in the beginning, the browser was built, and the whole built into the very architecture of it was statelessness. They wanted to be able to go from one page to another and not maintain state. Like that was by design. And then what happened was that, like obviously that just doesn't work, right? Like um the you do just when you're clicking around in any application, you kind of need to know things about what's going on. So we've come up with all kinds of schemes and all that around that. I mean, and most of those schemes are like have sort of here we are, what's 2026 May 9th, 10:33 a.m. Saturday. And uh the we've seen is that a lot of these sort of things that are done so that you can maintain state across different views and stuff as you click around, as you navigate, have been abstracted away, right? And so people don't even really remember the original problem. And so what is wild about the whole thing is that as you um like if I go like this and then I go back, um I get that, but if I go here, I get the data. If I go data entities and I hit enter, I don't. And the idea is that in one, so when we hit here, we're hitting on the fact that the um, state is being lost. But when we do something like this, and then we go to here, and then we come back, and we don't go straight to the URL, the state is not lost. And that's because really all that happened was the URL changed. It didn't actually go to the URL, which is weird. It's a weird idea. So with JavaScript, you can actually change the URL. So that is there's a ton of schemes that were come up with to deal with the state thing. And one of the schemes was that you would just change the URL with JavaScript. You don't actually go there, you just change it. And so we have this whole concept called a router outlet, and the router outlet abstracts that away. Basically, what it does is it changes, or not, we actually have a router outlet's not the right word. Router outlet's a directive that you can use in order to tell the Angular and the browser that I don't want to redo the state. I want to keep the current memory as is. I just want you to change the URL. And you're like, well, why would you want to do that? And the reason you want to do that is because you typically want to be able to, in an enterprise application, you don't want to have to tell people to navigate to certain things. You want to give them a URL to go to. So if you're like, hey, this is the person and we need to change their status, their marital status from, single to married. And then so like it's nice if you can just have a URL that goes straight to their account so that someone can say, hey, yeah, just here's the URL. Can you go ahead and just go there and change it. Otherwise, you have to say, oh, you have to navigate to that person and change it. And it's just a lot better if you can do a URL because that's really nice. But and then that's typically tied to a database or whatever. This situation, though, is we're not tied to a database. We're tied to memory. And because we're tied to memory, that's why we have this situation. Now, I was about to break the whole thing because another thing you can do for navigation is you can make it to where when you click on buttons, like here, we don't change this URL because I don't consider it worthwhile to be able to say, oh, and open one. Like maybe I could add another thing and says, hey, open this ID. But um, I don't think that's worthwhile. But going to ThreeJS and viewing a ThreeJS view of everything is, in my opinion, worthwhile. But as you notice, as we click this, we actually do change the URL, but we don't lose the data. But right now, I don't have any good way to go from when we create and add a new viz to here. And I think that's how I want it to be. I'm not 100% sure. I always think that, and I'm often wrong. But anyways, so when I changed this, what I had started to do was like you click this button, it goes to this matte toggle change, and then I was actually changing like a variable up here, um, a a component level attribute. I was changing that because I wanted to um, because it was just the most obvious way for me to do it, probably just because of experience. But what I actually really wanted was to change this URL and have the page update based on the URL, not reload the page at this URL. So those are different. One is go to the page and load everything. The other is change the URL and change the layout based on the URL. And they sound the same, but they're actually different. And until you understand that, the whole routing scheme in Angular is just going to be very confusing. Um, all right, so now I think so. I'm getting my routing service. I have a current route service, and apparently that current route service knows what the route is. So if I hit F12 and I bring up my console log, we could see that the current route service is doing a console log right here. Where are you? Right here. And when I change, it actually knows that it's entities now. And it actually knows it's three. So I want to go based on the what's in the coming from the um, current route service. Is this the ideal way to do it? Probably not. It probably isn't the best way to do it, but it works the best right now. Um, I suspect there's people that can make really good arguments about like why this is the ideal way to do it. I like it just because it works the best, and what I mean by working the best is I like how um, right now um, I like how um, I don't get a something changed before it could be updated console error when I do it this way. That's really honestly what it is. So like we could come up with all kinds of arguments and all that, but that is the thing. And now I always get confused because there's two template languages. There's sort of an older template and language which I thought was awesome, but then after I used this new one, I actually like this new one better. I didn't think I would though, but I can't remember. I can never remember. I know you need to do like an at if, is that right? And then do you need maybe it's percent. And then if this current route type is equal to 3. And I feel like this probably is like a pretty good Like this is a violation of like a lot of clean code belief systems where they're like, oh, you should never have like a mysterious magic number or letter or something back on this side. But you know, um, and it might make sense to create like a component level variable that says, it's like three not name or something like that. But I don't know. Sometimes is that right? I can't remember if that's right. No, that was not right. Oh, I think I didn't. Okay, I can't remember. I know I do it in here somewhere, so let's just try to find probably even in here. Oh, at for. Oh, it is at if. Okay, but we didn't need the percentage. I guess that was my at if. All I had to do was look down a few freaking lines of code and I could have seen exactly what I was talking about. All right. And then this one is at if is not equal to 3. So right now we just have a binary where like saying, hey, um, if it's 3 or not 3 or anything else, that probably won't hold up over time. Now the other thing that's kind of tricky at this point is you really probably do want to pull all of this code that I'm currently copying right here into its own component. It's always tempting to do what I'm doing right now and just leave it that way. Um, but man, it always, in my personal experience, has always been really nice to be able to. It always ends up being like very, very nice to have this all in its own component. I will typically put it inside of there. So basically, this is our ST grid, is what this one is, ST table. Um, but and we're basically just going to want to take everything that's in here and put it over there, and then um, I don't know. Yeah, we may not want this. We probably will want, but we probably don't want this to. We probably want this to be two components. So this would be a component filters component, and then this one is our table component. And like that's going to be a lot better. It is. It really truly is going to be a lot better. The problem is it's probably going to take a couple days. And like that has been the story all along is that we keep as we do stuff, there's just so many more details to doing things than you can imagine. And there's so many of these details that you can skip. But if you skip too many of them, then the whole freaking system just falls apart because it becomes, you know, um, more and more difficult to maintain. More and more different things are happening. The cognitive load of trying to work with these things is just grows and grows and grows. So, anyways, so tomorrow, I guess, I hope, remember, I'm going to try to build out this form field. This one will be really easy because it looks like, yeah, see, everything is kind of hard coded. Um, and see, I think everything, is this all driven from apply user filter? See, we probably even want this entity select item. What is that? What is entity selection item? See, instead of entity selection item, I should be using um, current route type. So if current route type is entities, think I have it, right? Three. Kind of want to just, okay. So I believe current route type, okay, so current route type could be three or any of these things, right? So it's nice because we could mouse over. So we probably actually want this driven off of the route. Now I don't know where entity selection data comes from because we're looping over all the entities that are selected. And yeah, we might want to pass that in. That might actually, see, we need to do a bit of analysis, right? We need to come over here and we need to look at what entity selection item is. Entity select data, and then it's equal to this populate menu, routing detail type. What does populate menu do? This goes through here. Oh, it gets the raw entity data. Okay, so we may not even need any of this over in this component anymore. And anything we can do to simplify this one is, like could easily become an absolute nightmare very quickly. Um, so anyway, so yeah, so tomorrow we will work on building this out as its own component. And then Monday, probably work on this one, building out as its own component. And then, so that's crazy, right? Because this was working perfectly, and now we're writing new code. We're spending multiple sessions on just refactoring this because as we've grown organically and we have this, the complexity level just went through the roof. So we need to, and it really did go through the roof. Like as you add like these sort of nodes of complexity, like they don't linearly grow. So if you have two nodes, if you have one node of complexity, it's a one. But if you have two, then it's more like a four. And if you have three, it's more like a nine. It like grows geometrically. And so like this is going to grow us into like a nine. And and then like if we have to do it again, then it's gonna be like a 64, like a complexity. Like the complexity just like with the slightest little changes can just grow through the roof. And so that's why now we're completely in another rabbit hole. We're creating components, smaller components from our bigger components, and we're going through that whole thing. And that's just a big reason why these sorts of efforts take forever. And what's really annoying is that they really, really, really take a long time the very first time, and then they slowly get better and better and better. So I don't know. Anyways, everybody, have a wonderful day. Happy coding. Bye.